your attention, please? Welcome, everyone. We hope you enjoyed your meals. It looks like most people have finished, and the stroke of noon is coming up. So we are going to start this event. And again, I'd like to welcome everybody. The Chamber is pleased that we have the mayor and the county commissioner with us. And at this point, I'd like everyone to stand, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Well, we definitely have more important people to speak than I, so I will invite Jack Chambers up to the podium, and we'll get the show started. Thank you.
Ooh. Thanks for coming. Great turnout as usual. The Chamber thanks you for your continued support. And maybe if I could digress just a second, what would a gathering of Missoula business people be like without thinking about Hal Frazier? And I'd like us all to take just a second, think about Hal and all the wonderful things that he did for this community. So we could have a moment of silence. Thank you, Hal. We want to thank our first speaker today is Chair of the County Commissioners, Gene Curtis. And I have Gene's bio. Gene has lived in Missoula County her whole life. She and her husband have lived in the West Side since 1977 in her grandmother's house that was purchased in 1935. She was raised in the Swan Valley, north of Seeley Lake, and graduated from Seeley Swan High School. Gene attended St. Patrick's School of Nursing and the University of Montana. Gene Curtis was elected for her first term Missoula County Commissioner in November 2000 and was re-elected in 2006. Gene believes that government can and should be reasonable, sensible, and responsible, and works to ensure that local government is accessible to its citizens of Missoula County. Before being elected County Commissioner, most of Gene's professional work was in the area of early childhood education and advocacy. Gene has a strong sense of social justice and is pleased to stand for those without a strong voice. She continues that advocacy as County Commissioner and while serving on more than a dozen county boards. Gene is a 2006 graduate of Leadership Missoula, which we have a few of those in the audience, and has held leadership positions in many organizations, including Montana PTA and the National PTA. Gene served 4 years as Montana PTA President and Executive Director. Gene is married to Brad Curtis, and they have 3 grown children, Shane, Pamela, and Kevin, and a splendid granddaughter, Sarah. 2 granddaughters, Allison and Lily, and in her spare time she likes to read, quilt, garden, and spend time with the family, especially those grandkids. Let me just give you a quick overview of what we're going to do. We'll have 2 speakers, but at the end we're going to do it a little different than we have in some years past. What we're going to ask you to do is each table is going to talk about what you've heard or maybe what you haven't heard and want to ask. And maybe if each table could come up with a question or 2, and then at the end we will field those questions to ask our 2 presenters. And I say 2 questions because probably if we go through or partway through the room, we'll have duplications of questions you may have. So try and come up with a couple different questions would be good. Without further ado, Gene Curtis. This thing's really tipsy, but you're taller than me.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you, Jack. Good afternoon. I am pleased to be here today to give the annual State of the County address. First, I'd like to make sure that you know that we have two newly elected county officials. Carl Ibsen is our new sheriff, and Aaron Lipkin is our new county superintendent of schools. I don't think they're with us today, but they're already hard at work and making exciting changes in their departments. I'd also like to recognize my fellow commissioners, Michelle Landquist and Bill Carey, who are here today. I don't think any of the other elected officials got away, but we have quite a few county staff throughout the room. We are in some lean times, and lean times should inspire us to take an even harder look at our operations and our customer service. Missoula County is in the midst of some exciting changes that will make our operations more efficient and enhance our customer service. We're focusing on accountability, sustainability, and efficiency at Missoula County, and I'm glad to have this chance to share those efforts with you. Times are tight, but that doesn't mean Missoula County isn't financially sound. They say the key to success is to surround yourself with smart people. The county commissioners have an amazing senior leadership team that helps us take an honest look at revenue projections, future needs, and the cost of providing services. That team helps us to safeguard the taxpayer dollars by developing and maintaining a strategy of conservative fiscal management. Some economists have projected that Missoula is heading out of a recession, but we believe Missoula County government is heading into one. Let me tell you why. During the slowdown, we saw a decrease in many development-related activities like clerk and recorder fees, building permits, and subdivision review. We were able to make adjustments to the budget to reflect the decline in those activities. These included a reduction in staff in all of those offices. Luckily, most of this reduction was accomplished through attrition and reassignment. We also held the line on mill levies, more so than most counties. The county requires departments live within their budget and maintain at least a 5% reserve for their department each year. To help you understand how budget works, here's an example. If a department's budget is $100,000 and with good fiscal management they only spend $98,000, they are not penalized for that savings. The next year's base will be the same. The $2,000 becomes cash to fund one-time expenses, which means there's no incentive for a department to spend down their budget each year. In fact, there's an incentive to save. So we use those one-time fees. You can buy a desk, but you can't schedule that you're going to have a person to sit there without ongoing revenue. It's also important to note that the county doesn't use that one-time money to fund those ongoing expenses. Local and state governments across the county are experiencing record revenue reductions, and some are forced to balance their budgets with one-time revenue. We disagree with that approach and have maintained fiscal financial stability with very limited tax increases during this recession. Unfortunately, we've been predicting for several years that we are facing a decline in property tax revenue growth. The growth in property tax revenues is largely based on new construction, which creates additional tax base. But it takes about 2 years for a new building to end up on the tax rolls. So therefore, we're running right now on the high end of things before things went downhill. So this will affect our provision of core services such as roads, public safety, and public health. Additionally, there are decisions being made in Washington, D.C. and in Helena to cut funding for programs that provide important services in our community, such as road, bridge maintenance, infrastructure projects, economic development, services to seniors, tobacco use prevention, just to name a few. So what does that mean to the citizens of Missoula County? It means we'll be facing tough budget choices for the next few years. In the last couple of fiscal years, we made cuts, but we were able to maintain the same level of service. Future budget discussions will have to include prioritizing programs at the expense of services. We'll also have to consider whether mill levies need to be increased. We are not at our cap. We can increase if necessary. We have prepared for this eventual downturn, and the county is well positioned to handle it, but it will not happen without sacrifice. We have maintained strong cash reserves, even improved our credit rating, and we held the line to the extent possible on mill levy increases. As county commissioners, we take this role very seriously. We want the community to participate in our budget discussions and help us prioritize the critical services. Our budgeting process will begin this spring. We'll send out press releases and post budget documents online as often as we can because we really like your input. Space needs. In looking at the future, we have identified the sectors of county government that are projected to grow. Unfortunately, it's law enforcement and courts. Those that need more or different space, and those that will see efficiencies through the use of technology. Our department relocations, our remodeling projects, and building projects reflect those future needs. 2011 will mark the year that we begin to implement space needs planning efforts that have been underway for the past several years. When our neighbors at Garlington Lawn and Robinson decided to build their beautiful new building across the street from the courthouse, it provided us with the opportunity to acquire their old facility right next door. Once we're done with some minor renovations, in April we intend to move most of our administrative services to that building, including the county commissioner's office. And for those of you who didn't get to attend the Mayor's Economic Partnership kickoff this morning, we definitely have a new beautiful jewel in the crown of downtown. This will allow for the renovation of the courthouse and the courthouse annex, which we hope will begin in earnest this summer. These renovations will bring about much needed expansion to District Court, Justice Court, the Sheriff's Office, and 911. We'll have 6 full-service courtrooms and functional jury rooms to serve District Court and Justice Court, and they'll be sharing spaces. As those of you who have ever served on a jury know, that's much needed. The Sheriff's Office will take up the entire second floor of the courthouse annex and will have enough room to run their operations for the foreseeable future. All of Vicki Zier's operations as clerk and recorder treasurer will be centralized on the first floor of the annex, including motor vehicle transactions, document recording, and voter services. The election center will continue to be at the fairgrounds at times when there is an election going on. It gives it more room, has free parking. The election workers have more space to keep the operations more secure and better organized. The commissioners will have a new large public meeting room on the first floor of the annex. It will double as the emergency operations center in the case of a large emergency. We look forward to having a meeting room that will better accommodate the needs of the public. Our administrative public meetings held Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings will be in the new administrative building. Emergency services and 911 will expand to the entire basement of the annex. This will house the new dispatch center and emergency operations meeting rooms and training rooms. Fred Van Valkenburg, our county attorney, will expand his operation for the entire floor of the courthouse annex, the 4th floor. The county commissioners, along with County Auditor Barbara Behrens and other administrative departments like Finance, Human Resources, Information Services, will move into the new administrative building. We'll also begin renovating a portion of space at our warehouse that's out by the mall. You might remember it as the Pepsi warehouse. This will become our record center and will provide much needed space to the public for historic records research. This will be the first time we've been able to dedicate space to the public to access thousands of historic documents that we're proud to preserve, many of which are for every county in western Montana, which all used to be Missoula County. We expect to accomplish all of these changes for about $15 million. We believe it will solve most of the space needs for the next 20 years. When our 2000 bond issue for a public safety building failed, we immediately set to work to develop our next plan. Before the recession, our original plan called for the construction of a new public safety building for $22 million and a new administrative building for $15 million. By purchasing the GLR building, I've lost my place, that needs only minimal remodeling, we're able to shave an exciting $22 million off of that $37 million project. And we still meet the goals of our original space plan. We've already secured over $8.5 million and hope to finance the difference primarily through current resources. We're thrilled that our friends at Garlington have created that beautiful new asset and enabled us to maintain the core of our services in downtown. These renovation projects will be the first test of the county's new green building initiative. Last year, the commissioners passed a resolution requiring LEED certification on all major construction projects. The goal of the project is to promote local materials and to improve energy efficiency for long-term financial and environmental sustainability. We expect this will represent 1 or 2% of the project cost. We will be able to recapture this cost in long-term energy cost savings. We're excited to join entities such as Missoula Federal Credit Union, Garlington, Lawn and Robinson, and the University of Montana in sustainable building practices. In addition to saving $22 million in capital improvement costs, the county is going to save money in interest expenses. I'm pleased to announce that the Missoula County received our first standalone rating from Standard & Poor's rating agency at a AA- level in 2010. This means issuing debt without having to purchase insurance to enhance the rating. To achieve this in this current economy was nothing short of amazing. The analysts judged the county not only on its financial strength, but also on the quality of its leadership and management. This AA- rating from Standard & Poor's will only improve as the economy recovers and Missoula County's leadership maintains its conservative fiscal management style. These actions will save Missoula County taxpayers millions of dollars in interest expense from future debt issuance. In 2010, the commissioners designated Missoula County as a recovery zone as enabled by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. This designation allowed Missoula County to act as a conduit for 5 separate businesses by providing low-interest tax-exempt financing through the ARRA program totaling $7,221,000. This allowed local businesses to grow, even in the recession, and jumpstart the economy's recovery by providing work for local contractors and new jobs in these expanded businesses. We are also doing some things in the area of software. We're looking to technology to improve accountability, sustainability, and efficiency throughout the county. The backbone of this will be the implementation of an enterprise-wide electronic content management system. At the most basic level, this system will provide the infrastructure to manage the documents generated at the county. As you know, we're responsible for most public documents, from real estate transactions in the clerk and recorder's office to the court records of district court. Currently, the county has approximately 33 million paper documents, not to mention millions of others that are on microfiche. The ECMS will allow all of our future documents to be assessed electronically by staff and eventually the public via the internet. Not assessed, accessed. While we don't have the budget to digitize all of our historic documents, we do hope that all new documents will be electronically archived with this system. Additionally, the system will help us automate the workflow of many processes like applying for a job or tracking a permit. ECMS will also enable the county to make these documents easily available on our website. So this should speed up our processes, foster communication among departments, and most importantly, provide better access to information by the public. We intend to issue a request for proposal for ECMS this month, with the first process conversions happening this summer. We are also transitioning to a new financial management and taxation system. This system will help us increase accountability and efficiency in all departments. The efficiencies gained by not shuffling documents through multiple employees and various levels of management will save an estimated 1,500 employee hours per year. The new system will also give our grants, public works, and facilities management staff the ability to track their projects and grants in real time. They'll be better able to plan and manage large grants and projects with more accurate, timely cost-benefit analysis. There are a dozen more features in the system that offer additional benefits. But most importantly, it'll be easier to access and share information with the public, both from a customer service standpoint and ultimately online. Our Public Works Department is excited about some new technology too. 15 of our 20 snowplow and patching trucks have been outfitted with GPS tracking hardware, with plans to expand to 20 trucks in the coming months. Public Works vehicles use about 100,000 gallons of fuel every year, with the lion's share going to plowing snow, as we know this winter. Gathering information from the GPS will allow managers to retrieve snowplow routes for efficiency, to review them for efficiency. Improved routes will be able to reduce the amount of time trucks are idle, which in turn results in lower fuel costs, greater productivity, and fewer greenhouse emissions. Eventually, we hope this information will be available to the public, which means on a snowy day, you can see when the snowplow might be getting close to your house. It also is a safety issue, as we have people that are, 80 miles from town, and we'll be putting them on our our building inspectors' vehicles. We have had people pull a gun on a building inspector that didn't have any cell service, so we'll at least know where they are. Now they'll have cell service too. Based on strategic planning efforts around information technology, the county is looking at moving from a PC environment to a virtual desktop environment. We spend about $150 each year on PC replacement and about $300,000 every 4 years on desktop software. Virtualizing desktops and moving our servers to the cloud warrants closer examination. Our IT staff estimate savings to be in the neighborhood of $715,000 in the first 5 years for hardware costs alone. This will free up a tremendous amount of money that can be used to offset ever-increasing operational costs. As you can see, we're working hard to make county functions more efficient and accessible to the public. We're in the middle of planning and implementing a lot of changes, and we hope you'll notice the difference in the coming year. I don't have time to highlight the work of each of our departments, but here are a few I'd like to share with you. Missoula County and the state of Montana have some statistics that we need to change. Our suicide rate's one of the highest in the nation. The number of vehicles involving alcohol and or marijuana are high. The number of people living in poverty are high. Childhood immunizations are low, but the incidence of whooping cough is up. The price of housing for working families is high. Addressing these issues will take partnerships and education, both public and private. They're community problems and will need community solutions. We must work together. Our public health department looks at the community as its patient. What is the health of our community and what can we do to improve it? For example, we know 50% of babies born in Missoula County qualify for WIC, and yet the state legislature says they might not take the federal WIC money. We know it's important to focus on the body mass index of our youth. We know our immunization rates are too low. We know tobacco companies are marketing products to future nicotine addicts, our kids. Our city-county health department is working on these issues. They've recently received 2 grants. One is for diabetes prevention program, and one that's a program that will send visiting nurses to families that have children with asthma. So we're excited about that. Director Ellen Leahy recently brought together community leaders to discuss how to reverse the trend of childhood obesity, because chronic diseases, cardiovascular, diabetes, and cancer are truly childhood onset diseases. It matters what our kids do and what they eat. Unfortunately, we continue to have to monitor cuts to these public health programs proposed at the state legislature. Rural Initiatives, on a positive note, Rural Initiatives continues to work on behalf of our rural residents and built the framework for the Seeley Lake Regional Plan that the commissioners adopted this winter. We're very excited about that. Public process and community survey about parks and trails in Missoula, city and county, we did this survey together, confirmed that residents, young and old, love trails. They like paved trails, dirt trails, hiking trails, nature trails, commuter trails, any kind of trail. So we'll continue to watch and see what we're doing on that. And Rural Initiatives on their website has a electronic newsletter that can fill you in on next steps for things. The Commission and the Fairgrounds Director are pleased to have so many qualified individuals apply for the Fairgrounds Advisory Committee. We're in the process of interviewing and appointing those members. We agree improvements to the fairgrounds have been a long time coming, and we're excited to roll up our sleeves and get work to work phasing in our master plan. Our charge to the advisory committee will be to look at the fairgrounds with sustainability in mind. We're also excited to announce that the Clerk and Recorder Motor Vehicles Treasurer's Office will begin providing some services to residents in the Sealy-Swan area in March. When Plum Creek left the Sealy area, we had the opportunity to have some space there in that facility. And starting March 10th, on the second and fourth Thursday of each month, local residents will be able to renew their motor vehicle registration, license their dog, pay their taxes, get a moving permit, or get death or birth certificates. Unfortunately, new license plates or title work will still have to be done in Missoula at this time. So we hope this is just the beginning of providing more services in the Sealy office. Missoula County took a lead role in bringing together commissioners and economic development organizations from the 7 western counties in Montana to talk about economic development in the region. We've improved communication and coordination across these 7 counties. I also serve as president of the Bitterroot Economic Development District, which we call BRED. It's federally designated economic development district for western Montana, covering Missoula, Ravalli, and Mineral counties. We were recently awarded $627,000 for the Community Trade Adjustments Grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce. One of the exciting projects from this grant will be to develop an economic gardening strategy for the region that will support and grow local businesses. We've also been excited to be involved with the Missoula Economic Partnership, but I'll let the mayor fill you in on this initiative. On a final note, I'd like to talk about civil discourse. Sometimes we let the media color our world and influence our opinion of government. Recently, there have been a couple stories that paint a pretty negative picture of public services. I'm happy to report that in Missoula County, those are the exception, not the rule. We are fortunate to have citizens who come to us and want to sit down and look for solutions. We appreciate that, and we hope that all of you will remember, if you hear something that makes you think, what are they thinking, you'll give us a call. We enjoy talking to you about it because we believe in what we do. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Gene. I get the privilege of introducing our next speaker, Missoula's 50th mayor, John Ingen.
Last count, yeah.
Last count. And hoping to stay that way for a little while?
It's entirely up to you.
I'm not running, so you don't have to worry about that. Mayor Ingen is committed to affordable housing, conservation, and Missoula's public lands and regulation reform. He was elected in 2005 in a race that began with 6 candidates. He ran unopposed and was reelected on November 3rd, 2009. See, you didn't even have any competition last time. Since taking office in 2006, Ingen made good on his promise to pass an open space bond for Missoula and worked with Missoula County to help ensure that important lands in and out of the city were protected for our generations and those who inherit this special place. Ingen's affordable housing team has worked for 2 years identifying housing needs in the city, educating our neighbors about the importance of workforce housing to our economy and community, and creating momentum for decision makers to consider housing affordability as they make policy choices. In 2008, a clear majority of the Missoula City Council passed an affordable housing resolution formalizing the city's commitment to decent housing for all Missoulians. Under Mayor Ingen's direction, the city embarked on a difficult but necessary mission of updating and reforming the city's antiquated zoning regulations. Based on his belief that considerable community tension is the product of outdated and outmoded regulations, Ingen, again with the support of a majority of the council, launched a grassroots process to write regulations that work for Missoula and its wide variety of citizens. In 2009, the council approved the new regulations. With his leadership team and capable city staff, Ingen delivered balanced budgets to council, continued to deliver important services to the folks who count on the city for clean, safe streets, fire, medical aid, permits, parks, and much more. Before serving as mayor, John served a term on the city council. He was an award-winning writer. Are you still not writing?
Emails.
and editor for the city's daily newspaper. Owned and operated his own small business and volunteered for a variety of Missoula's nonprofit organizations, concentrating on human services. As an amateur auctioneer and MC, Ingen helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to help our friends and neighbors in the community. John was born in Missoula in 1964, attended Willard Elementary School, Hellgate High School, and the University of Montana, where he earned his bachelor's degree in journalism. With his wife Tracy, continues to own and operate the travel agency in Missoula. The Ingets live in the Rattlesnake Valley with a rescued greyhound Patches, a rescued Labradoodle Odie, a cat Mittens, which was born in the trunk of a Pontiac. I don't even want to go there. And a bunch of fish. Please welcome Mayor John Ingen.
Thank you very much, Chad. I appreciate that. Want to acknowledge Commissioner Curtis and Commissioners Carey and Landquist. We're pretty fortunate here in Missoula and Missoula County in as much as we actually can have conversations across the street. I know that in a bunch of jurisdictions around Montana, elected officials from cities and counties have restraining orders against one another. So we're really fortunate that we can cooperate in so many ways that are meaningful, and I appreciate the commissioners' work and that of their staff, a number of whom are here today as well. I want to also acknowledge a number of city council folks are here today. They work hard every day to ensure that they're serving the public and their interests. Thank them all for being here, and a number of city staff members are here. Appreciate them being here as well, and I know that they all clocked out before they came. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of Missoula is the story of, in part, the city of Missoula, our daily work, our plans, our successes, our failures. In large part, though, the state of Missoula is the story of human beings making a life in this community and how they go about making that life. At the city of Missoula, we're in the business of supporting community, ensuring that folks have a safe, secure, clean, comfortable city that allows for commerce and creativity, retailing and recreation, education and entrepreneurship, healthy minds and bodies that thrive. So every day, we police the community with more than 100 officers who have sworn an oath, as I have, to serve and protect you. With a professional firefighting staff of more than 90 men and women, we roll on thousands of calls for medical aid when folks are in trouble. When there's a fire, we're there. We inspect buildings, though no one has pulled a gun on us recently, and restaurants and pipes, doing the sometimes unpopular but necessary work of ensuring that our children aren't injured because of faulty wiring, or our families don't turn up in emergency rooms with food poisoning or worse. We build streets and sidewalks. We do our part to make sure that if you don't have a car, can't drive, and need to get somewhere, the doctor, the grocery store, you can. We help you understand what you can and cannot do on a piece of ground, and in many cases, we do so in the hard place between someone who wants to do something and someone who doesn't want it done. We help maintain an art museum and a business improvement district. We stand up to support our schools and our university through cooperation and collaboration. We think that graduation matters because our kids matter. We collect and treat human waste. And while that is not the sexiest bullet on a resume, there would be no Missoula as we know it without a wastewater plant. We help businesses grow in our urban renewal districts. We help thousands of folks take care of themselves with hundreds of acres of parks and miles of trails, playgrounds in neighborhoods, first-rate, fiscally sound aquatics facilities that are the envy of other communities. We offer free, wholesome entertainment and programs for families who could and could not afford them otherwise. Our public health nurses reach out to new mothers and babies who would be lost in the wilderness without us, giving them a chance to succeed when, in some cases, they are set up to fail. We prosecute DUIs and domestic violence cases. We serve the victims of crime, and we work to keep crimes from happening again. Based on all of that work that we do day in and day out, our part of the state of Missoula is sound. We have survived the worst recession in modern memory without dismantling government, selling off our assets, and doubling or tripling taxes in a single year or two, which is the story of some of our brothers and sisters in many other communities around the nation. We cut our budgets, we held our wages, and we raised taxes and fees only modestly at percentages far lower than the percentages of our cuts. And today, in the early months of 2011, Missoula is poised, I believe, to enjoy the recovery. I see the evidence everywhere. This morning, the Missoula Economic Partnership kicked off our Best Place Project campaign at the corner of Broadway and Ryman, where the partners of Garlington, Lawn, and Robinson chose to invest about $15 million in the future of Missoula. At that kickoff, we announced that we've raised almost $2.3 million from partners in the public and private sectors who are willing to invest in the future of Missoula. A year ago, I stood before you with the idea that we could do more together to develop Missoula's economy. Today, we're searching for an executive director for a true investor-driven public-private partnership charged with growing quality jobs in Missoula by supporting existing businesses, recruiting new businesses that are a great fit for our great community, and creating opportunities for entrepreneurs and developing infrastructure. I want to recognize a few folks in the room today who, with me, represent the founding members of the Missoula Economic Partnership. Jeff Fee is here from St. Patrick Hospital and Health Sciences Center, Stacy Mueller, the publisher of the Missoulian, Dirk Visser, president of Allegiance Benefit Plan Management, and Scott Burke, the president of First Security Bank. These folks have demonstrated a significant commitment to Missoula through their investments of time, money, intellect, and energy. They're joined by dozens of others in the community with a strong appetite for growing wealth for all Missoulians. We have great partners in Missoula County and the University of Montana, institutions without which this program would not thrive. Executive Vice President Jim Foley has been with us all the way. We have great partners in the women and men from businesses large and small who've invested in the partnership or committed their time to developing a business plan that is specific to the Garden City. And the folks who've been toiling in the field for a long time deserve credit too. Dick King and the board of directors of the Missoula Area Economic Development Corporation have embraced and encouraged the Best Place Project and the partnership. We meet monthly with the MADC board of directors to ensure that our efforts complement one another and that we're working with the community's best interests at heart. I see the evidence everywhere. Dave Beaton dropped off a check at the mayor's office the day after we first talked about the Best Place Project a year ago. Dave owns Taco del Sol. He's a remarkably soft-spoken, intelligent, and honorable small business owner. He believes that a more vital Missoula is good for his business, his family, his employees, and all of us. I want Dave at the table as we move forward, and it's not just because he serves burritos that are the size of a toddler. It's because he has faith in our place and our future. I see the evidence everywhere. Over the weekend, I saw Missoulians raise their bid numbers over and over again in support of CASA, court-appointed special advocates, volunteers who stand up for children in the court system under the ugliest of circumstances, all of which are beyond the children's control. They invested thousands of dollars in that nonprofit organization because they have faith in our place and in our future. And I see that faith demonstrated over and over and over. I see the evidence everywhere. The Boyce family chose to invest with courage in their business, even as they saw a recession coming. Boyce Lumber is in business today, winning national awards for innovation because the owners elected to invest with courage and back that courage with a plan. And they chose to show up over and over, even when the chips are down, because they have faith in our place and in our future. I see the evidence everywhere. The great teachers at Missoula County Public Schools, Alex Apostle and his board, are doing the tough work to make our school system the best in the country. It's hard and it's sometimes painful, but they're doing the work because they have faith in our place and in our future. The same holds true at the University of Montana, where Royce Engstrom is working with his collective resources to not only educate a workforce, but educate folks who will need a workforce. He does it because he has faith in our place and in our future. At United Way, my friend Shannon Flanagan's been leading a campaign with Susan Hay Patrick and tireless volunteers to fund important community agencies and their work. I know that Shannon has a lot of other stuff to do, but he does it because he has faith in our place and in our future. I see the evidence everywhere. There's a smile or a hello. Wherever someone inconveniences herself for someone else, wherever we take care of a vulnerable kid, a vulnerable adult on the street, a vulnerable animal. Wherever we stand up in the face of name-calling and negativity to support the rights of someone who's different from us and know somehow instinctively that we might need that support ourselves sometime. We do all of this because we have faith in our place and our future. We're doing pretty well today in Missoula, Montana. And while the Frenchtown Mill is empty, the Macy's building won't be for long. And there's much, much more to do. My Chief Administrative Officer, Bruce Bender, and I commissioned a report that says we can serve our citizens better at City Hall. And I'm committed to working with Missoula County, our professional staff, and the folks we serve to organize ourselves to better support economic and community development. We're going to make it easier to do business with the City of Missoula without lowering our standards, which must maintain the quality of life in our community. We will get that hard work done. I worked with Missoula County and our community partners to commission a report that describes the needs of homeless people in Missoula. What we learned is that our chronically homeless folks are mostly our friends and our neighbors, folks who are a paycheck or a medical bill or a mental illness or a dependent child or a third job away from having a decent, stable place to live. They want what we want, but can't get there without help. Tell you what, if I were a hardworking, decent human being who happened to be poor in Missoula, I'd hope that my existence, my humanity alone, would be enough reason for someone to try to help me. That's all the reason we should need. If you are a bad actor, a predator who treats our streets as a source of easy money and our public places as a playground where you may be violent and vile, a creep who preys on the generosity of good people, you are not welcome here. But if you are a poor and hungry and sick and suffering human being, you have my commitment to help you find a home so that you can enjoy the basics of life that many of us take for granted. We'll get that hard work done. We have a community treasure in the heart of the city, a baseball stadium that got built despite relentless obstacles. Thousands and thousands of folks spend lovely summer evenings meeting their neighbors and having fun at that ballpark, which was promised to the city from the days when it was a dream. Incredible people invested themselves personally, professionally, and financially to getting the stadium built, but unless it can be refinanced, this public amenity will become a private asset. I want Play Ball Missoula to establish and maintain a maintenance fund that taxpayers don't bear that burden over time, and I want the city of Missoula to own that facility and the ground where we've already made significant investment free and clear. I'll work with lenders, our redevelopment agency, the honorable folks at Play Ball Missoula, and the community to get this deal done. The debt needs to be resolved, the asset needs to be secured as a next step in completing our downtown riverfront system. Where a mill once stood, where a brownfield lingers, will make way for a new vital neighborhood adjacent to trails, the Clark Fork River, Silver Park, and our Civic Stadium. We will get that hard work done. And we'll continue to do all of the things for which we are responsible every day. And we'll do more. As much as we seek change and progress in our lives, our work, our institutions, the real pressure that I feel as your mayor is to keep most things just the same. We'll do some of that, but we'll be doing more. We'll be changing the way we do business, changing the way we approach problems, and in doing so, we'll be changing our circumstances for the better. I'm asking all of you today to think about your choices as you live your life here in Missoula, Montana. You may be the voice of reason or the voice of discord. You may be constructive or destructive in your criticism of the community, organizations, and institutions in which you have a stake. You can stand for something positive or fall for something negative. You can demand more from yourself and lead by example, or you can expect more from others and throw stones when it doesn't go your way. Every day, right here in Missoula, Montana, you can engage in your community in a way that clearly shows that you have nothing but faith in our place and in our future. If you can do that, we will share something meaningful, something enduring, and something fundamental. We will share faith in each other. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing but powerful. As I tell the ladies and gentlemen of the Missoula City Council on Monday nights when we adjourn, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mayor Ingen. Please take about 5 minutes and discuss with your tables and try to come up with a couple of questions. We will start 5 minutes. Gary and who else will be? Bill will be roaming around the audience with microphones to ask questions to either Commissioner Curtis or Mayor Ingen.
We'll start with Bill. Pick your nearest table.
Very good. Would you please stand, sir? State your name.
My name is Bruce Lotkamp, and my question is to John Engen, our mayor. And John, we would like to know how you're doing on your plan to improve the services at City Hall in relation to new businesses, obtaining building permits, licensing, zoning permits. So far, the process of expanding businesses in Missoula has been severely hampered by poor service, lack of guidance, and negative customer service.
So our next step, and I don't know if you have had a chance to read the report. If you have not, it's available at our website. The Working Together report calls out a number of things that we could do better, largely based on best practices elsewhere in the state and nation. You know, our commitment is to to again figure out a way to streamline our processes while again maintaining our standards. So our first step is we've got a meeting scheduled with commissioners who are our partners in much of this, and I'm very interested in understanding from them what they're willing to do in terms of moving forward. We'd like to look at some of the models that are out there, and in particular I'm interested in the notion of a one-stop shop. That is, whether you're getting a business license or thinking about a new piece of zoning or a subdivision, you have a point of entry, and we start to give you the help you need right away and guide you in the right direction. So there is no part of this that's easy, and there is no part of it that's simple. But I didn't sign on for easy or simple, despite the fact that I perhaps am both. And the easy isn't what you're thinking it is. You all took that trip, I did not. Commissioner, you want to?
And we have one on this side.
Mayor, just going to make a quick comment. We're in the same boat as you over at the mall. We're waiting for that asphalt plant to open, believe me. The other question I had, is there any economic development nuggets that you could share with us today?
Well, yeah, never ask a politician to share nuggets. So our kickoff this morning, we've gone a long way toward creating an organization that I think is goal-oriented in terms of economic development. We're all about creating jobs at the partnership, and today the recruiting firm we hired about a month ago is sorting through a pretty big stack of resumes and applications, trying to find us an executive who can implement that plan. What we're hearing from those folks at Jorgensen and Associates is that Missoula is an extraordinarily attractive market. We present challenges and opportunities that folks with pretty credible resumes will find attractive. And that we have a real good shot at putting the plans on the ground. We hope to have somebody hired in that position by the end of March. Jorgensen's going to bring us 8 folks. We don't know who they are yet to talk with. And really that person, we've got a board of directors. We certainly have a vision. That vision is largely the product of our conversations with you all, with the community, and the business community in particular. The person who gets that job is going to be charged with the task of putting that plan on the ground. We're going to try not to saddle them with too many organizational encumbrances to start with. Individuals have individual styles and the ability to operate differently. So we'll see who we get and how he or she wants to organize. We're really poised to make the investment we need, fortunately, in putting the plan on the ground. I don't have anything else. You're looking for a... Yeah, I got nothing. But a bunch of other people do, fortunately. So.
This would be to John and Jean both. Good afternoon and thank you for your time. So the first question would be is, you talked about financing, I think both of you. So what do you predict will be the future revenue source for local government, and how do you see that impacting homeowners and businesses? And the second part of the question is how can citizens and businesses meaningfully participate in prioritizing the programs that are provided and funded by local government? Thank you.
Our primary source of revenue doesn't change much. It's taxes and fees. What we hope to do, however, is grow the pie so that burden can be shared, and that's really what part of this economic development effort is all about. Gary Chamra just left the building, but we spent a little time in his $15 million investment in downtown Missoula, which does nothing but help our tax base, strengthen that base and help us spread the burden around a little bit. there's not a lot of positive buzz around taxes and fees, oddly enough. But the fact of the matter is that I believe we continue to provide tremendous value for what we're asking as an investment from the folks we serve. I believe that we deliver those services more effectively and less expensively than the private sector could deliver those services. And that's sort of the fundamental tenet of what we do. And that's our pact, that's our agreement with one another, that's our belief that together we can aggregate our resources and we can get more done as a whole than as our parts. We need to continue, however, Nick, to look for other revenue opportunities, and some of those can be as simple as attracting new business. The other is looking to our state and federal partners to ensure that our investment as a community and the value that we bring to state government and federal government is rewarded, that our piece of that is acknowledged, and that as we look at formula funding, for example, as we send money back to Missoula and Missoula County from the state based on economic activity that happens here, we need to not only defend, but I think enhance some of those formulas so that the economic drivers, the cities around Montana that are really shoring up the economy in between the booms and busts of resource extraction, that we're getting our fair share, and that those efforts are acknowledged. I'm always looking for new revenue opportunities, and I get a mixed bag of them. One of the more frequent revenue opportunities that's suggested to me anonymously via email is that I quit or stop paying myself. That will only put a relatively small dent in the revenue, but it's out there. But I think there are also some creative ideas. Again, we're back in the position where we need to work together, and I think over time, whether it's impact fees or other licensing fees, I think we've done our best to reach out to make sure that we have folks at the table advising us and helping us figure out how to move forward with those sorts of revenue streams. So, long answer, sorry.
Hold on, let Jean answer the question.
So as you know, the county government is actually an arm of the state government. So we do a lot of things for the state, and the way we're funded for that is through an entitlement bill, which is one of the things they're talking about right now. So it used to be that as you paid for the license for your car, for example, 10 cents went here, 12 cents went there, and it was this convoluted formula. So through a lot of work and Missoula County was one of the big players in that work in the 2001 legislature, we managed to make that an easier formula. But we now send the money to the state, they send back our portion. So if you think about some of the things we do, you can buy your car plates here, that's really a state job. You can pay your taxes here, that's really a state job. When you eat in this facility, you hope that you assume that it's been inspected. That's the State Department's a state's job, but we do it for them. So some of those things we choose right now to subsidize, one of which is restaurant inspections and grocery store inspections, because we believe it's important to our community. So those are we really get, it's taxes that you see, and we itemize our tax bill so you can see what percentage of your, everybody that calls us says they pay $2,000, so I assume you all do too. So you can see what percent of your $2,000 goes to what. And of course, a lot, we collect money for the schools. We collect money for rural fire departments. We collect money for the city, actually, and give it to them across the road. But all those things are listed on there. So as you asked about prioritizing as we go through budgets, we have to look at what's important to our community. Well, we just learned from our surveys that parks and trails are important. Now, the city has a lot bigger park department and a more involved as to all the things you can do than the county. We have one person, Lisa, and so we do less. But we also know that the values of this community mean that we take care of our kids, we take care of our people with special needs, and we take care of our seniors. And we know some of those things because you have voted in those levies to do some of that stuff. You vote for the library levy, you voted for open space, you voted for seniors, you voted for museums. Those are things that are important to the people in our community, and that's, so, you know, the voted levies, we don't mess with much. Now, we do have the ability to say, well, this year we're just not going to levy the money for one of those things. But we believe that the community has told us it's important, so we will continue to do that. You pay for roads and bridges if you live in the county. It's the people who live outside the city limits pay for road and bridge outside the city limits, separate from the folks in the city don't pay for the rural road. So, you know, we'll have to look at all of those things, but we'll also have to keep in mind that it isn't always just the people who show up at something like this, or who show up at a budget hearing, or the people that come in and want some permit and think we're too darn slow and bang their hand on the counter. That's not the only people that we serve. We serve the people that don't have a strong voice. We serve the people that don't have a car and can't get there. And so we have to weigh it all. But we hope you'll help us to prioritize that. And this is a generous community, and I think that we'll all figure out a way to take care of our people even in tough times.
Gary?
Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Link. I'm with the Missoula Organization of Realtors. First of all, thank you to both of you for being here today and talking with us. My question is in relation to something that Jean said, but Mayor, you can feel welcome to answer it as well if you feel like it. But you recognize that development in our community is a big resource for you, not only for your incomes, but also for jobs in the community and that sort of thing. So obviously right now we're experiencing a bit of a lull, but what is the county, and then of course potentially the city, doing to help transition into a smoother operating system, I guess, for new development as it comes in, to kind of help booster that and make sure that it remains healthy when it does come back? And also then related to workforce housing, how are we ensuring that regulations are not actually making it more difficult to provide workforce housing in the future?
So the county right now is in the process of holding some listening sessions. I know that some of you in the development area have been invited to those listening sessions. And the reason we're focusing first on those of you who work in that field is to hear, you know, what is it that's in our regulation that you see as an impediment? Is it mean because it's not clear? Does it mean, you know, is the impediment that we require too much, it takes too long, whatever? But just realize that sometimes if you had, if there were 5 people, and this used to happen, I mean, the commissioners hardly see a subdivision right now, and we used to do 3 a week. So if you brought in your subdivision, there was probably 3 other people that did it at the same time, and you can't expect the same staff to do all that. So we have to be realistic about things. But I guess what we also have to weigh is whether still to protect those people that aren't there. In other words, just because you have 100 acres and technically by law you can have 1 house on 1 acre, it doesn't mean that your property is best suited for that. What I say sometimes is, it might be a good place for a subdivision, but this subdivision is not the right subdivision for this place. So, you know, be realistic in what you're talking about. Are you too close? Is there a creek you need to protect? Is there water there? All those things. You don't want somebody's septic running into your well. So take part in those listening sessions. From the listening sessions, we'll be looking at then what's identified as to what we go forward and do to improve our subdivision regs. One of the things we think will come out of that is that we will have different road standards for how rural you are. For example, we have great road standards, but some of our roads that are in Condon or up 9 Mile that were from a subdivision that met our subdivision standards could handle more traffic than a street in town. Probably doesn't need to be that way. So those are some of the ways to be involved and let us know what's going. Just remember, we're to look at public health, safety, and welfare of everybody, not just the guy that wants to develop his property, or gal. The other is sometimes people come in and say, well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why in the heck would I have to go through any kind of review just to put a house out back for Grandma? Well, I can tell you that once Grandma's gone, that somebody's going to come in and want to buy that. And they're going to want to divide it. And that is why we've always reviewed subdivisions for lease or rent to see what the impact might be in the future if the property was divided. But maybe you should look at it from, what would I think if it was the neighbor doing it? Do we want if you pick any subdivision in the county and say, did we want the density in that place to double without any review? Probably not. So just help us to be realistic about what should we review. Let's have a good conversation. As to the workforce part of it, again, we need to look at why regulations are there and what they're there to protect, and hopefully we can go forward. If you want to add anything.
Bill?
Hi, Bob Jackie, City Council. I have a question for John. Gene spoke about the lag time between the slowdown and tax revenue. And I was wondering, a lot of the things you spoke about as far as economic development and the different revenue sources seem like things that are a little bit more long-term. But I was wondering if we have projections yet as far as if the city is going to run into some of those same problems that Gene described in the near term.
Our sense of things, Bob, is that we've already experienced them and that we're more or less over the hump, especially in terms of tax base. I think county's experiencing some additional difficulties because of some significant loss in tax base. The budget I'll bring you for fiscal year 2012 will be predicated on the notion that I don't think, unlike the last 2 fiscal years, we've had to bring significant cuts. I think we're pretty stable. We actually had growth revenue last year that was, as you may recall, far better than we had expected. All things being equal, we expect that to be the same again for fiscal year 2012 or a little bit better. Much of that has to do with centrally assessed, but it's also new facilities coming on the tax rolls. We've had a couple of years of, our building permits aren't at all-time highs, but they're certainly much better than they had been. And in fiscal year 2010 in particular, we had a pretty good year and a pretty good uptick. So we actually think we're over some of the hump that Missoula County is kind of finding itself. I mean, it's all about cycles, and I think they're experiencing a slightly different spot in the cycle.
My name's Karen Harrison. I work for MDSC, a local nonprofit employing about 180 people, so a lot of jobs, and we rely very heavily on state funding to take care of our adults with developmental disabilities. We have a lobbyist as well representing a variety of similar industries. What is the perception you're hearing from your lobbyist, John McDonald, coming from the state back to the city and county right now?
We're hearing it's all sweetness and light, Karen. Someone actually spotted a unicorn in the Capitol the other day. And you know, it's a pretty bumpy deal. Our strategy for better or worse, is largely defensive. We're interested in hanging on to the resources that we have, because the fact of the matter is, like it or not, if our funding mechanism changes for the worse, that burden falls on all of us, right? We either stop serving or we charge you more. So everybody in the room has a piece of that. You all can have a conversation with the folks who serve you in Helena to remind them that just simply shifting taxes because it makes a bunch of rhetorical sense doesn't make a lot of fiscal sense. And the pendulum swings, and it's a difficult time. I again have faith in the notion that over the long term, cooler heads will prevail. There are good Republicans and there are good Democrats, and when they find ways to work together, to meet in the middle, and to acknowledge their responsibility to our collective well-being, we get good stuff done. I still think that instinct is alive and well in most Montanans, and I think that instinct will again over time prevail. In the meantime, people are throwing stuff at each other. And I hope at some point that loses some of its appeal and folks start tackling some, I think, really serious issues. It's my sense of things.
So we do have different lobbyists. And our lobbyists, we've just been on the defense also, looking at programs that we don't want to cut. And it's not just at the state level, it's at the federal level. I know there's some serious discussion about cutting funding that goes to aging services and the coordination of volunteers. And I don't know how many of you use volunteers, but the volunteer hours in this town are amazing. But you don't get volunteers to even come and help at the Special Olympics unless you have somebody organizing that. And that's what aging services does in this town. And if we lose that kind of funding, we're going to lose that kind of help. It's also a stipend for a lot of those seniors that are living on really small incomes. So, these issues are huge. The ARA money that we talked about, that we helped some with Garlington's building, we didn't help them. It isn't our local money. It's not taxpayer level. It's funding mechanism that allowed them to have lower interest rates so they could afford it. There are several businesses in town. Those kinds of programs it would be great to extend that another 2 years, because local businesses could expand where they need to and afford to do it. It took the federal government 10 months to figure out how to even give the money out. So therefore, we have local banks here that, got on board and figured it out, but they have more businesses that could do it, but it now needs to be spent in too short a time. So some of those kinds of things. But at the state level, seems to me like they're wasting a lot of time fighting over silly things and putting through silly legislation, and they're not focusing on the work or the needs in the communities. And if it gets cut at the state level, it's rolling down here. We hope it's a trickle and not a waterfall.
Thanks, Gene.
Hi there, my name is Tim Polich. My question is in regards to transients. As I see more and more storefronts open downtown, and with hearing more and more people say, I don't want to go downtown shopping. What is our plan on that? Because I guess one of the things I see is our small businesses have been very generous to Missoula, and that's going to start waning. So.
It's wintertime, so it's a little bit difficult to tell. I can tell you, however, that toward the end of the summer we were hearing that things were better for a variety of reasons. One is that we've worked with the Business Improvement District to put an officer on the street, on the ground, dedicated to managing downtown Business Improvement District issues and working on some of that aggressive panhandling behavior in particular. We have to make a distinction, and I don't think we've done a particularly good job of that, of separating bad actors and bad behavior from folks who are homeless and poor. They are two very different issues, and we need to approach them very differently. So we have a downtown advisory team that's working pretty diligently, downtown business owners and agency folks who are trying to parse that puzzle, especially on the panhandling side. City Council ramped up some regs to help a little bit. We're continuing to work on those. We're continuing to work with our police department to see what we can do in terms of management. I think you also need to, you got to be a little bit careful about making generalizations. I got to tell you, my last trip downtown, we actually had some storefronts that were more full, not just with medical marijuana purveyors, than they were a year ago. And I think we have to be careful as we speak publicly about what we're seeing and make sure that we're right, because I think we're actually in a little bit better shape than we were last year. And again, my sense of things is that will continue to improve as well. Those are the puzzles we're working on. I wish that one were easier. It's not, but turns out a bunch of what we do isn't.
Maybe stay right there.
The discussion at our table, we wanted to hear a little bit more specifics on the Missoula Economic Partnership, the directive and the long-term vision, as well as the relationship to the MAEDC, and kind of the underlying question of that is, does it make sense to have them as two separate things?
I didn't get the last part of that, Elaine.
How much is the last? The relationship to the MAEDC and kind of the underlying piece of that is, does it make sense to have them be two separate entities?
Sure. So the executive committee of the Economic Partnership has been meeting with executive committee from MAEDC for, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 months at least. MAEDC is supportive of this effort, and I think is looking for a way to transition some of their core competencies, and we hope at some point we'd like to bring them together in the partnership, because we don't want to duplicate services. Certainly, we think they're absolutely complementary. The MAEDC loan program in particular is a great community asset. It's well managed, and it's done a lot of good in the community. We want that to continue to do a lot of good in the community. The other thing that folks should know about MAEDC and Dick's efforts there in particular is that our approach here has been about finding funding to support the activities around job growth, business development, retention, and recruitment. I think Dick could tell you that if he were able to muster the resources that we're mustering to apply to those things, MAEDC would have been doing that. Instead, I think MAEDC necessarily followed programming dollars and the efforts around those programming dollars. So I don't think our missions are much different. I think the way MAEDC is funded has driven them to pursue a different course. I think we ought to do both. We need to drive the loan program. We also need to do the business development piece. But I think the relations are good.
I think that's... I'm getting the... All right? Okay. I think that's it, unless there's a burning question somewhere in the corner. We wanted to thank a few people. I have to tell you, I love this group. I mean, where in Missoula can you go or attend a meeting like this and everybody's here? I mean, this is Missoula. You have the school district, the university, you have nonprofits, you have city council, county commissioners, city and county employees, and then all of the heart of Missoula, the businesses of Missoula. So we really appreciate you coming today. I want to thank Kim and her crew. They're the ones that put this on, and a lot of hard work. Let's see, Gary Clark, Chair of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We do have some chamber board members here, and you can wave also. So Until next year, the glow will stay with me until I'm back here again. So I really appreciate you coming, and thank you from the Chamber of Commerce.
Maintain that glow.
The glow.